can get started. Playing with double screens here, so just a moment. All right. All right. Hopefully you all can see my screen. Super excited to be giving you all this talk this evening. This is probably one of my favorite talks to give. I've given this before through the HBCU Center and through other channels. So I'm really excited to talk about it because it's something that I'm really passionate about. But before we get started, let me maybe give you a bit of the lay of the land, how we're going to talk today, the way that I've set up this conversation, and then we can kind of dive into everything, all the information. So I first want to give you all an intro about myself, and then I want to talk a little bit about the current state of tech, the lay of the land a little bit, right? So if we're going to be talking about how do you get into tech, I think it's important to understand what the lay of the land looks like. What are the stats? What are the numbers? What's out there? What's the outlook looking like? So a few slides on that. And then I want to talk a little bit about the types of tech careers, because I think a lot of people assume that all careers are just in tech are all technical and you have to be coding. So I love to kind of break that down a little bit. And then we'll talk a little bit about some tech myths, some things that people say, channels are saying, organizations are saying, things that I think from experience are myths, and do a little bit of damage for individuals who are wanting to get into the tech industry. And then lastly, some scenario-based practical tips. So whether you are a student right now or early professional, some things that you can start doing to kind of pivot yourself into a career in tech. And then I'll also go through some resources that you can start tapping into as you're going on your journey. So a little bit about myself. I am a graduate of Indiana University, so I got a Bachelor of Science in Informatics. Informatics is similar to information systems, information technology. It's in that family, all the same things. I am a senior technology consultant at Protiviti. I started my career in consulting. I started at another firm called Accenture, one of the big four consulting firms. So I started at Accenture, spent 5 years there. Then I pivoted to Protiviti, which is a little bit smaller, mid-sized technology or consulting firm rather. And there I'm specialized in agile transformation and delivery. And all that simply means is I work with our clients to deliver, maintain, build technology solutions using agile methodologies. And so here are a list of my certifications. I have 5 certifications, all within, of course, that agile space. These are all agile certifications. So I consider myself to be a little bit of an expert in the agile side, but there's always things that are changing and growing. So I'm also trying to change and grow. So that's why I get my certifications. And then lastly, my passion project, I am the founder and creator of a platform called Techie2, which is an online platform for demystifying tech and providing practical strategies for individuals that are wanting to pivot into tech. So this talk tonight, but more. So I do things on TikTok, I do things on Instagram, I have a whole website that you can go to. So all of this stuff, but more on that end. So before we jump in here, I definitely want to learn more about who all is here, who you all are. So hopefully I have like 2 poll questions, if you all don't mind answering those before we get in here and I'm aligned before we start this talk. So first question here, what stage are you in your career? So are you a student, recent grad, early professional, seasoned professional? Where are you at? I see it was 47 participants, so love to see how everything is broken apart here. And on your end, Makiba, does it show? I don't see if the poll is going over, if there's voting. Does it show on your end?
Yes, it looks like, can you see it now?
I saw it pop. Oh, okay, there are the results. Okay, so it looks like, so just gotta give it some time. Okay, looks like 27% student, 6% recent grad, 24% early professional, 42% seasoned professional. Okay, so it looks like the seasoned professionals are in here, but this is a good breakdown. Next question here. How informed are you about the career opportunities in tech? So not informed at all, slightly informed, very informed. No wrong answers. Just want to know where we're sitting here. I'll just give that a minute. Not informed, slightly informed, very informed. Okay, cool. Looks like slightly informed is taking the cake here. That is not a problem. It's always good to know where we're sitting here. Okay. Thank you all for participating in that. We can jump right into the content this evening. So I mentioned getting the lay of the land, the current state of the tech industry. And so you can break this up into many, going many directions, but I chose four high level areas. So market worth, how much market worth at a high level, how much money is the tech industry bringing in? Because we know that market worth informs salaries and it informs job availability. So market worth, and then the workforce breakdown, what does it look like? We know that the tech industry is a male dominated field, white male dominated area, but it's important to know the numbers in terms of diversity stats and all of that. And then growth occupations for 2022. I know we're on the latter end of 2022. I haven't seen numbers or stats come out for 2023, so we're going to talk a lot about 2022. And I don't expect things to change a lot for 2023 because I didn't see a lot of changes from 21 to this year. So we'll talk from there. And then we'll get into a little bit of the in-demand tech skills or tech areas that are booming right now, that are growing. Let's get right into it. So the market worth. So a little background knowledge. CompTIA, they publish what can I say? It's a letter, rather I should say, a letter that's called the industry outlook for each year. So at the end of each year, they publish that outlook for the next year. So they published one in 2020 for 21, and then they published one in 21 for this year. So these numbers you're seeing here is for globally and the US. Globally first, so the tech industry was estimated to grow to about 4.8 trillion globally in 2021. And this year it was estimated that it's going to grow to about 5.3 trillion globally, which is really good. So I'll say that the tech industry worldwide holds about a 33 to 35% market share, which is really good. I know 33 sounds low, but it is good when you look at across the industries. And then for the US, 1.6 trillion for the year of 2021, and then we went up to about 1.8 trillion for the year of 2022. This is really important because we saw the pandemic came in 2020. Excuse the noise, there's a plane flying right over my room here. We saw the pandemic come in 2020, and we saw all of these industries that were affected. And yes, the tech industry was affected 2020. We saw some of those effects a little bit in 2021, but I will say that of all the other industries that were affected, the tech industry was probably affected the least. Reason being because a lot of companies went remote, right? So they moved a lot of their workforce to working from home. They needed operations to be able to keep up their infrastructures to support work from home. You're seeing companies moving a lot of their operations to the cloud. You're seeing data get bigger and bigger in a term that's called big data. If you're someone that's interested in data, I do recommend you look into what big data means. So overall, the tech industry was able to maintain a little bit of calm during the pandemic. And now that we're out of the pandemic, or not out of, I'm not going to say that, but on the, I guess, quote unquote, other side, we're seeing some growth happening there. Keep this going here. So a little bit about the workforce breakdown. So of course, like I said, this is a white male dominated industry. It has been for a while and it still is, but we're making strides. So right now, I love stats. I don't pull things out of my head. I like to pull down stats because that also keeps me informed. But from CompTIA and Forbes, the tech workforce is about 8% Black or African American. This number hasn't changed much since 2021. When I was doing, my comparisons and my research, this number hasn't changed much since the last about 2 years. For the Hispanic and Latino, is about 8% of individuals in the tech workforce. Also hasn't changed much. Last year we were seeing maybe 7%. Now you're seeing 8%, but not much of a change there. Still in those single digits percentages rather. For women, we're seeing it's about, depending on the source you look at, we're seeing about 25 to 26%, or even sometimes you'll see 26.5 or 26.7 women, according to CompTIA, CIO, and Anita B. So a lot of work that still needs to be done. I did see a publication that said that we are expected to see women represent about almost 33% by this end of this year. So not sure where that is. I'll have to wait until 23 to get those numbers, but Not seeing a lot of steady growth as I've been watching these numbers over the last few years, but lots of work being done to kind of change this. A little bit about growth occupations for 2022. Now, I want to preface by saying when we say growth occupations, we're not saying that these are the best careers in tech or that these are this is where you need to align. There's a lot of careers in tech, a lot of alignments, a lot of things that you can do. What we're saying by growth opportunities, occupations rather, we're saying that these are the areas that we're expecting to see a significant growth this year compared to last year. So same thing with growth occupations and same thing with in-demand skills. In-demand doesn't necessarily mean best or better than. And I usually like to caution people about driving their careers to what an in-demand list says. Why? Because what's in demand in 2022 was not in demand in 2017, and what's going to be in demand in 2026, right? So drive your career on what you like to do, on what brings you joy rather than an in-demand list, because they change a little bit each year. But I will say that with all these growth occupations, they correlate a lot to what's been going on in the world. So like I mentioned, a lot of companies moved their workforces to remote. A lot of companies are moving to the cloud. A lot of companies have bigger data. All of these growth occupations correlate with what's going on. Bigger data, so data analysts and data scientists need more of those professionals. Cybersecurity is a big thing, especially with moving to work from home and moving to the cloud. Bigger data, you need beefed up cybersecurity practices. So a lot of growth in the cybersecurity area. Highly recommend if you are interested in security. Software developers and software QA, never going to go away, right? We're always going to need people who are building our software and so on and so forth. But one that I do want to touch on that I didn't think I saw on the list last year was this last bullet here, emerging technology. When we say emerging technology, we're saying artificial intelligence, we're saying blockchain, we're saying VR. Those things, those are technologies that are, when we say emerging, they're still being understood, quote unquote. We're still getting an understanding of what all can we do with these things, what all can we make, what can we build, how can we intersect these with the other industries. So if you're one person who is interested in the curious side of innovation, you definitely want to look into emerging tech. And I think this number is going to continue going up as we go in the next 5 to 10 years, because we're doing a lot of strides in those emerging technologies. Same, like I said here, same with the in-demand tech skills, artificial intelligence, cloud computing, cybersecurity. That all relates to the occupations, right? These are skills that all relate to these occupations that we're seeing here. I will say again why I don't choose to not drive my career on these lists. My current field is not even listed on here, but is it a bad field? No, it's not. Is it what I'm doing bad? Is it not a growth area? No, actually it is, but it's just not on this list. So I don't, just an example as to why you don't necessarily want to lean too hard on these lists, but they're good. They are really good to know. I'll pause here and see if there's any questions. I'm just gonna do a scroll. It's hard to decide what to get when you're interested in everything. Absolutely. No, absolutely. No questions I see. Okay, cool. I wanted to at least make sure I got any questions pertaining to the lay of land before we move forward. All right. Next slide here. This is one of my favorite slides to talk through because again, this is the part where I talk about not every job in the tech industry, it requires you to be a coder. And I think those of us who are in the tech industry, we've done a bad job of sharing light on what's available, because we make it seem like, oh yeah, we're just this, down the next thing. And we're not doing a good job of breaking things down for people. So people think that you have to code or you have to be technical, when that's completely not the case. So a good breakdown here, that I found that makes the most sense to break down these areas in tech and which are easily understood across the industry. So you have, of course, your technical side. This is the in-depth understanding of the technical processes, so designing, building, deploying. So common job titles you'll see here: architects, engineers, developers, coders. The more technical people, they know the languages, the Javas, the C++, the HTML, all that stuff. Those are the big people that are building things, right? More technical individuals. And then you'll go down, we're gonna go clockwise here. Project management, this one is also another really popular one. So defining and managing, standing up, driving different complex projects and programs. This one is one of my favorite ones to highlight because in this area, one can be as technical or not technical as they want to be, and they can still be very, very, very successful in project management. Project managers make, and obviously it's not always about the money you make. Of course, you always want to, do things that you love, but project managers make a lot of money. They're very in demand. And many of them, they're not technical at all. What they're doing is not technical, but rather they're able to kind of bridge the gap between what's technical and what's business. So I always highly recommend project management because you'll see that a lot of, especially for those of you who may be early professionals or you're seasoned professionals and you're wanting to pivot into the tech industry, you'll see that a lot of the stuff that you're doing right now currently translates into a career in project management. Next bullet here, design. So these are your creative folks, right? Your designers, innovation, product design, product creation, product management. I think this one's pretty self-explanatory. So individuals like UX, UI designers, product managers, product owners sometimes. You'll have your graphic designers, even animation falls in here as well. And these individuals who they're skilled, we don't necessarily call them technical, but they're more so skilled in technologies that create products and create experiences and of that nature. An area that I'm very interested in, actually, wanting to kind of pivot my career into. So really love design. Functional is the other one here. So understanding business process needs and translating them to system configuration needs, workshopping, discover, describe. So the full software lifecycle, that software development lifecycle, these individuals are able to kind of drive projects and drive their work through these the dysfunction. And a lot of these people, this is a happy medium, right? These are individuals who can be both technical and both business centered. They're able to speak both of the languages. I currently fall in this place where I may not code on a day-to-day basis, but if I'm working on an engagement where there is coding going on, or there is something that's being built, like currently I'm working on something that has to do with Oracle. If you know Oracle, a cloud system, enterprise resource planning system, I'm able to talk about what's going on. I can read it and see it and talk to my clients about it, even though I'm not building it or not physically like coding. So functional is a really interesting place to be in because you can be as technical or as businessy as you want to be. And then on the business side, another one that's really important, and I like to highlight when people say, well, I don't want to be technical. So business side, strategy, sales, marketing, operations, these are individuals who they're using technical skills to manage business operations. Another area where if you have experience here, it's easily transferable. And so when we talk about, oh, I do sales, maybe you do sales for like, what is it? What can I say? Like you do sales in healthcare, that's easily transferable to doing sales in the tech industry, because why 9 times out of 10, you're doing sales on a technical product or a technical suite, and you just have to be able to speak that language. So that's why it's transferable. If you are used to developing strategies for healthcare, or you're used to developing strategies for automotives, whatever the case, that's easily transferable to developing strategies in the tech industry. And so my popular saying is that tech is in everything and everything is in tech. It's not as overly complicated as we have made it to be, and it shouldn't be like that. It's kind of like gatekeeping, and it shouldn't be like that where it's like you only have to be the technical side. I'll be like the first one to say I don't code. I don't want to code. That's not my career aspirations, and I don't do it, and I still have a very successful career. So hopefully that makes sense. And I know it's hard when you see all of this and you're like, I still don't know what I want to do. This is where I would encourage individuals to tap into resources, that you see online, right? There are lots of creators I've seen outside of myself, a lot of creators who create content that help people to understand what it is that's available, what it is that they can do. There's a lot of, I've seen some surveys out there that give people, based on what you put in your preferences, based on what you select, it gives you some recommendations for potential careers, right? I've created some cards around this on my platform around maybe you'd like this career. If you're this, that, you can. So It's tough. I get it. I definitely would not minimize it, but it's manageable, especially if you know that there's more to do than just coding. So let me see. I think I saw a I saw a question. Wish this could open. I work. I provide resume system as a side hustle. I work full time as a mental health therapist within school systems. How can someone tailor resume to stand up more for a project manager? I want to help more clients transition into that. So this is where it's actually I feel like maybe I'm going to wait because I think I'm going to touch on this. Let me wait and I'll touch on this on another slide. We keep moving here. So tech myths, another favorite of mine, because again, we don't tell people these things. We just make it seem like, yeah, this is what it is, and you're gonna have to deal with it. So a few myths here. You have to know how to code. I think I just talked about it a lot in that other slide, so I'm not going to exhaust it. Where you don't need to know how to code at all. I don't code. A lot of my peers don't code. So I'm not going to talk more about that. Or you got to have a lot of experience. I think we tell people you need to come with a resume that is full of 10, 20 years of experience to get a job. You could easily have a resume full of 10, 15 years of experience, but if you're not doing the work to make sure that the work that to make sure that the experience you have is transferable and is easily understood as transferable, it's not going to work out. So whether you had 2 jobs or you've had 7 jobs, what matters is how you take that information and you translate it to the job that you're applying for, the area that you're trying to pivot into. Next one here, you have to be technical. I think I covered that on the last slide. Don't really need to go into that. Another big one, need to have a technical degree or advanced degree. This is very, very important because I work with individuals who have business degrees. I've worked with someone that has a political science degree, even a liberal arts degree, and tech consulting is unique, but I have worked with individuals who are currently tech consultants, tech managers, who do not have a technical or a STEM type of degree. Again, it's really after you get out of college. Let's say you have a degree in what can I say, public health. You get out of college, you've been working in public health for what, 2-3 years, whatever the case may be. You decide that I want to go and be um, I'm trying to think of a tech career. I want to do project management. I'll use this example here. I want to do project management. The degree itself doesn't matter, right? It's more, again, it's about, do you have the skills? Can you speak to the job? Can you pass the interview round? Can you show what past experiences you've had that relate to the job that you're trying to get, right? It's really, and I know when I'm talking about it, it's really high level. There are specifics for each scenario. So, bear with me on that. It sounds very high level, but it's very possible. It's just everyone has to tailor their things separately to what they are trying to do. And sometimes going to get another degree. So some people say, I got a business degree and I want to be in tech. Do you think I should go get a master's in information systems? No. When there's so many courses, there's so many boot camps, which I have my feelings about boot camps, but that's another conversation. There's so many ways to upskill now and certifications that going to get an advanced degree, unless you really, really just feel like you need it, it's not necessary. Next one, gotta have a large network. That's a lie too, because I think sometimes we tell people go on LinkedIn and connect with 2,500 people. Okay, so you connected with 2,500 people. Of those 2,500 people, how many of them do you actually interact with? I would rather it's a quality over quantity thing. I would rather be connected to 10 people who I have good relationships with, working good, nurturing those relationships with, than 250 people and only 2 of them I have good relationships with. Why? Because sometimes it's not about what you know, but about who you know. And so having a large network isn't it. Sometimes you just need to know that one person that helps you shoot into where you're trying to go, right? So don't feel pressured to go and know everybody. It's going to tire you out in the long run. Next one here, you'll work long hours. This is it depends. It depends, right? I've had weeks where I've worked my 40 hours. I've had weeks when I've done 60. And it also depends on the projects that I'm working on too. So this one, it really depends. There is no one standard answer for how long you're going to work. You've got to pay a lot of money to upskill. Totally not. And this is what I was saying around boot camps. I think a lot of people, they jump straight into boot camps and then you're paying thousands of dollars to do a boot camp, but then there's nothing that comes out of the boot camps. And that's why a lot of people get frustrated. I always tell people utilize free and inexpensive resources. And I share a lot of free and inexpensive resources on my platforms, but utilize free and inexpensive resources before you jump into the expensive stuff. Like a good example, I just shared a few months ago, the Mom Project. If you know about them, they help women and women of color and moms who are trying to get into different careers. And so they were doing something where they were helping individuals get into tech and helping individuals certify either in project management, or the other one, data analytics. I forgot the other one, but I shared that and I said, this is free. You just got to go and apply. And a girl, she just contacted me, was it last week? And she said, I watched your video and I went and applied to the RISE program and I did the project management. They paid for me to do the project management certification. I now have a job in project management, right? And she didn't have to pay for that. So just an example as to you don't really have to pay a lot to upskill, whether you pay a little bit or whether you find free opportunities. Just be smart. You can't pivot routes once in. This is also a funny one where it's like, well, now you are a project manager, you can't do anything else. You got to stay in project management. This is a lie. Once you're in, it can be easy to navigate into a different area. You really just kind of figure out what it is that you want to do and put in the strategy to go in that area. So don't ever feel like I started out in this area and I feel like I've been pigeonholed into this area. There's always opportunities to pivot around. And then lastly, support for Black people, people of color, and women. Yeah, and of course I share those stats, which seemed a little bit saddening, but there is support. I think there are organizations like, what can I say, like, Anita B. So they have the Grace Hopper Conference or the Tapia Conference, or various organizations, Girls Who Code, Black Girls Code, things of that nature that are trying to provide support for all individuals who are considered minorities in the industry, so that we can kind of bridge that gap and make sure that, in the next couple of years, we can raise that 8% of Black people to, double digits, or 8% of Hispanic Latino to double digits. So there's support, just got to find your tribe. Okay. Next slide here. So scenario-based practical tips. What I wanted to do was to share some tips based on where you are and what you can do, practically can do right now to whether you're a student and you want to, when they graduate and be in the tech industry, or you're a professional who wants to switch, a few tips that I think would be helpful to you. So we'll start on the freshman and sophomore. So freshman and sophomore is a time for exploration. I think there were some folks that said they were still students. So if you are a freshman and sophomore, you fall in this category, this is for you. So this is a time for exploration. What I see a lot, and I love it, a lot of ambitious freshmen and sophomores who are like, what can I do right now to make sure that when I graduate, I have a good tech job? Do I need to be getting certifications? Do I need to be doing this? And I always say, no. You going to class and you getting the grades and you doing that's enough. As much as it may not feel like it's not enough, that's enough. What you need to be focused on earlier on is, how do I start building myself up as a professional? Because you're coming out of high school, maybe you did have a job, maybe you didn't have a job, whatever, you're still learning how to become a professional. And so this is the time where you need to be polishing that up, because yes, you want to be in tech and you want to learn what it is to be in tech, you want to learn those skills, but you also need to be a professional. Those things matter as well. You got to learn how to be a professional. So this is the time where you want to start developing those career resources. So you want to start building up your resume, you want to start building up your LinkedIn, whether it's just you have just one job on LinkedIn or you have that one job on your resume. You want to start having those assets on hand, because you're going to start building on them throughout the rest of your college career. Internships, non-tech internships are acceptable, and people think that when I say this that I'm cussing. It is the truth. Non-tech internships are very acceptable, because again, you're just trying to build yourself up as a professional, because those professional skills you can then use to, as you get to junior year, I guess I should say, and senior year, when you're looking for a job, those skills are easily seen and recognized. For example, myself, I had a non-technical internships the summer after high school. The summer after my freshman year, I had non-technical internships. I was a finance intern, but mind you, I knew when I landed on campus that I wanted to do tech, but I took what I could because sometimes as a freshman and sophomore, there are not a lot of opportunities for tech internships because a lot of companies, they want to hire rising seniors, rising juniors. So after that freshman year especially can be hard. So whatever you can find, take it because you're growing yourself as a professional to develop those soft skills. Campus involvement, club sports, on-campus job, whatever the case may be. I think many times people want to just go and I have good grades. I have seen it before. I've participated in recruiting events where we'll see two resumes. One of the resumes is maybe a 3.38. They have great grades, the good GPA, of course. They've done what they needed to do in terms of coursework, but they don't have any other school involvement. And then you have the 3.5 or the 3.3. That's still a good GPA, right? Not bad. It's still a good GPA, but they have, the good grades. They have the student involvement, their student president. They're part of this, then next thing. 9 times out of 10, that individual is going to be extended an offer, or at least an interview offer before the other one, because we see that you're what's called well-rounded. I want to see, when I usually help out with recruiting events, I want to see well-rounded individuals because that shows me that you've taken the time to build yourself up in other ways. Lastly, connect with recruiters and professionals. Your network is your network. There's value in being connected with professionals or companies that you're interested in. If you find that one person that, they work at this firm that I like, I want to be connected with them, stay connected with them. And most people are happy to stay connected with you. I know when I usually connect with anyone in college, I stay connected with them and I walk with them through their academic career, being as helpful as I can. I just had a young lady who actually she attended this chat last year, and she was a senior at the time, and I helped her with her resume, and I kind of helped her with navigating interviewing, and she got a job offer after graduating. So I was really happy to see that. So yeah, connect with professionals and have them by your side. They're an asset. Have them by your side. Next slide here. Junior and senior, this is usually a really fun time because by this time you should be well established in your coursework, your majors, you're working towards finishing it. You're looking now, especially as a junior, you're looking to now for that one internship, or you're looking for that one opportunity. And especially as a senior, you're looking for those last little things. What can I do as I'm getting ready to jump into the workforce? So you want to always, like I said on the last one, keep your resume, your LinkedIn updated, continue updating it. Don't just create it freshman year and then leave it for senior year. And then don't do that. Utilize career services. I think many times people kind of falter when it comes to, they fall through the cracks when it comes to interviewing for jobs because they're not getting resume help. They're just doing it by themselves. So utilize, if you have career services, utilize those organizations like, the HBCU Career Center, utilize them to help you figure out what your resume should look like, what your interviewing practice, negotiation tips, all of that stuff. By this time you want to have at least 1 or 2 internships in related and unrelated, right? So I talked about internships that are non-related, and then you want to have at least one, just one, whether, and even if it's not like exact, let's say you want to be like a UX UI designer. You didn't get an internship doing UX UI, but you got an internship doing some business analyst work or some technical analyst work. That's still pretty relevant, right? You're still doing stuff in the industry. You're still building those skills. That's still pretty relevant. You definitely want to do that because, again, that stands out, especially when we're looking at, okay, so this person's about to be a senior. What's going on? But I do also want to preface that if you are a junior or you're senior and you have not yet had a tech internship or whatever the case may be, it's completely fine. It's not the end of the world. It's just strongly encouraged. Attend career fairs. I think a lot of people do a lot of injustice to themselves when they forego going to career fairs, whether it's a career fair for your school, and sometimes some schools don't have their own career fairs. There are actually, and I have a list somewhere that I'm getting ready to make some content on, of areas of organizations that are going to be doing career fairs, diversity fairs, or regular career fairs, getting ready to publish some content on that. So definitely attend career fairs. And important question that comes up here when you're a junior, senior, those last 2 years, should I get a certification? No. No, there's no need to. I know you're trying to stand out. You're trying to make sure that I get that job. There's no need to get the certification because chances are you're not getting to apply that certification anyway. So you just either you wasted money to get a certification and you wasted time to get a certification that you're not using right now, or you might graduate, you get a new job, and then you find out that this is not what I wanted to do at all. And now you have the certification. It's not necessary to get a certification anytime in college. If you get it, cool, but it's not necessary. I wouldn't recommend it. I didn't even actually get my first certification until I was 2 years into working, and I had an idea of what it is that I wanted to do. So note on there on certifications. Early and seasoned professionals, this is a great one. So you have some years under your belt, you're wanting to pivot, you're wanting to stand out. It may seem impossible. I know it's really tough, but it's not impossible. So one of the major things is to leverage your network. I think I mentioned it's not always about what you know, but also about who you know. You want to also strategically build your network based on what you need. So if somebody wanted to get into tech consulting, they would get connected to me and I'd be able to help them navigate whatever the case may be. But if somebody wanted to be a software developer, you can get connected to me. I'm not a software developer, and maybe I'll connect you to somebody that I do know. But I think just be strategic with who you get connected to, who you're connecting to. Identify your thing or your specialization, especially if you're still trying to figure it out or you're wanting to pivot. You're not going to pivot if you don't know what you want to do. You're going to just give yourself a headache, and chances are you're going to waste money, time, resources because you don't know what it is that you want to do. So put in the energy to figuring out what it is that you want to do before you actually jump into a certification, or you jump into a course, or you start learning those skills. We want to be smart, right? You want to be very strategic about what you're doing. Create a time box pivot strategy. There's Once you figure out what it is that you want to do, there's no reason why you shouldn't have a strategy as to what, how, and when. Strategies keep us on a line, right? Especially with timelines. Timelines keep us aligned. So if you tell me I want to pivot into project management in the next year, and then I ask you, so what's your strategy? How are you trying to do it? Well, I don't know. You're not serious, right? And I hate to sound to what's it called, sound crass as it, but you're not serious. So timelines help us. You need to have a time box pivot strategy as to how I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to take this certification. I'm going to do the skills. Simple, right? I could talk on and on about that. Join tech networks or recruiting platforms. These networks are really important because sometimes they have opportunities to help you pivot. I talked about the Mom Project. It's not necessarily a tech network, but it's a good platform for professionals. The Mom Project, Power to Fly is a really great recruiting platform because they bring these employers, and based on your profile, they bring these employers. You can have like a virtual career fair. Love Power to Fly. So find organizations that are similar to that, where you can start at least getting in front of employers. And then some career prep for the early or the seasoned professional. You need to be doing a skills inventory. And I think that answers your question here, Brianna, about how can someone tailor a resume to stand out more for a project management role. You need to be doing a skills inventory. Skills inventory, what that is it looks at, this is the job that I want. These are the skills that are in the job that I want, right? That's one list. Next list is, these are the skills that I have based on the job that I've been doing, the career that I've had, right? You take a look at those two, you compare, and then you make the third list. What skills do I need that I don't have that I need to be in this field? And then from there, you then work on upskilling, and then you then work on tailoring your resume. For specific to this, if you're saying you're working as a full-time mental health therapist with school systems, the best way to tailor your resume is to talk about how do you execute, right? How are you driving, let's say, if you develop strategies, how are you driving those strategies? Talk about the strategies that you've driven. Talk about the amount of people that that you work with, that you manage, whatever the case may be for project management. Talk about the systems that you're using, the day-to-day ways that you are mitigating risks, mitigating issues. Talk about the ways that you're project planning, or how are you project planning? Are you using an agile methodology, a waterfall, whatever the case may be, right? And I know I'm talking very high level. I would need to talk to you like separately, Brianna, but that's that's the best way to go about updating your resume, is by starting with the skills inventory and going from there. Recommend that for anybody that is wanting to switch where they are. Upskilling, so again, free and inexpensive resources first. Free and inexpensive resources first, please. And there are many out there. I know sometimes it may seem like it's but there are many out there. And then career readiness. I think sometimes us as professionals, we like to think that, well, yeah, I interviewed for the current job that I have now. That should be fine. It's a different interview process. It's a different interview process. The way that you interview for maybe a healthcare job is not going to be how you interview for a tech job. So polishing up on that makes a huge difference. It makes a really huge difference. And then obviously resumes, portfolios, if the type of role you want requires a portfolio. Hopefully that all makes sense. Any questions on these areas, on these slides rather, these practical tips? Try to be as high level as possible, because again, with each individual, the circumstances, the action plan, the game plan, I like to call it, is going to be different, right? I could be talking to two professionals, but their game plans, their execution plans are different based on where they are. So I try to keep things really high level for folks. Okay. All right. Feel free to drop any other questions. I'm getting closer to the end of my presentation here, so I would love to answer those questions as much as possible while we're here. So resources, ones that I can immediately recommend, right? And again, if I was to work with you, or at least talk to you, and you needed some recommendations based on a specific thing you're trying to do, then I would direct you the specific way. But these are high level, right? Udemy, one of the more popular ones. Coursera, Udemy, they're like hand in hand. And I hear people say Udemy or Udemy, whatever, however you call it, use it. edX is another good learning destination. LinkedIn Learning, I probably put it at the bottom of my list personally, because it's more like on the job learning, and the courses I haven't found to be as beneficial as these other areas, but they're still really good. Skillshare is another really, really great one that I love as well. Pretty inexpensive courses here, and then a variety of those as well. Code Academy, online learning platform. This is specific to if you want to be coding, right? This is a good place to go to learn different programming languages. Moving forward here, another one, Cloud Academy, specific to if you want to get a cloud certification, you want to prepare for that, you want to go to Cloud Academy. Skill Crush, good for people who want to do design things, so web design, coding, and learning other digital skills. Great place to learn. But this one is a boot camp. Remember I told you that these next four rather are boot camps. I listed them out here because I'm not saying that they're not completely beneficial. What I'm saying is that you really want to do your research before you ever dive into any boot camp. None of these are cheap. And so you want to do your research to make sure that you're getting out of it what you can. Me personally, I feel like if you're going to pay for a boot camp, that boot camp needs to also help you get a job, but that's just me. That's just me. That's why I have issues with that. And then lastly, if you ever wanted to attend a conference, these are, AWS for specific to Amazon Web Services Cloud. Grace Hopper, this one is specific to women of color in computing. Richard Tapia, this is people of color in computing. And then the Black Hat is specific to information security or cybersecurity. And then lastly, what I will recommend is, and maybe I should have probably put a list in this, it just came to my head rather, but look out for creators again that are making content about getting into tech. There's a lot of them. So one I can think of, like Baddies in Tech, they're there on Twitter. I think they're on everywhere. Instagram. They have a website. What's the other one I can think of? Diversified Tech. That's another one. I don't know if she has a team. I think she probably has a team now. They send out, I think it's a weekly newsletter of like available opportunities, whatever the case may be. So yeah, look into creators that are getting into tech content. I know sometimes you gotta shuffle through it, but they're there. What about mentorships and how to speak them? Absolutely. I think mentorships go hand in hand with networking. Mentorships can also be hard to approach because not everybody is willing to be a mentor, or not everybody is willing to pour into you what you need. And mentorships are not easy to find overnight. I would say that yes, there is benefit in finding someone that's willing to mentor you, but do your due diligence to ensure that whoever it is actually living up to their part. I think many times we like to give mentees flack that, well, they're not doing this, that next thing. You also as a mentor have to be living up to the promises or the standard that you have given these individuals. So do your research on who you're choosing to be your mentor, but also pick mentors that are within the industry that you want to get into, and just be real. I've seen a lot of people message me on LinkedIn, like, I just wanted to talk to you about X, Y, and Z. And then it naturally grows into a mentorship relationship. And I think also that's another good point where don't rush it. Don't be quick to call it a mentorship. Don't rush it. Let things organically form into a mentorship. But hopefully that answer your questions, how to seek them. You look for people on LinkedIn. I think Baddies in Tech was actually doing, there's organizations like Baddies in Tech, they were actually doing a mentorship, a matching system. I would need to find more. There are more that are like that. I mean, you can feel free to send like a message on LinkedIn or something like that, and I can get you more details on some areas that do that. Or platforms that do that. Can you provide some resources for seasoned professionals? Yeah, so for seasoned professionals, this one also, I would say if you can contact me, I want to know what it is exactly that you want resources on. And if it's completely okay if you say I don't know, then we can kind of work from there. But I would want you to contact me and tell me, are you specifically looking for project management resources or software development? Like, what area are you looking at? Because if I was to give you a list, I would exhaust it. So it would be like a very exhaustive list. So yeah. Any additional questions? Hopefully this was helpful. Otherwise, you can feel free to, I see PowerPoint decided to mess up my slide, but anyway, you feel free to connect with me. I'm happy to chat with as many people as possible. You can email me if you want to. You connect with me on LinkedIn. You are also free if you're on TikTok, Instagram, look into my platform and the things that I post, the resources that I post there. And I think actually I post a lot for, I'm not even trying to do like a shameless plug, Crystal. I do post a lot for like seasoned professionals and like free opportunities for certification or for this, but I promise you, not trying to do a shameless plug, but I do post stuff about that as well. But you're also free to hit me up if there's anything specific you want. All right. Any other questions this evening? Check the chat here. Hey, love that. No fee bootcamp. All right, if there is nothing else, this has been a pleasure to chat with you all. Again, feel free to connect with me, ask me any questions, any one-off questions, and I would be more than happy to. I usually say if I don't have the answer, I know somebody that does. So get you connected. Thank you all so much. Have a great evening. Oh, I see another question that has come. Fighting imposter syndrome. This is a really good one. Imposter syndrome, I always say it's never going to go away. We're always going to be in spaces where we just feel like we're not good enough, or we're not smart enough, we're not the smartest in the room. So I want to definitely say that imposter syndrome is never going to go away. Some things that I always encourage people to say is, one, give yourself grace. I think we always like to be hard on ourselves when we're dealing with imposter syndrome. So one, give yourself grace, but then two, be able to reaffirm yourself when you are dealing with imposter syndrome, because 9 times out of 10, you are not even 9 times 10, 10 times out of 10, 100% of the time, you are supposed to be in that space. You can get into that space. You can do it. You can't sit with your peers. So you have to be able to reaffirm yourself. But I'd be lying to you if I said that imposter syndrome will ever go away. It'll never go away. You just learn how to fight it. You to go head on head and fight it. Hopefully that helps. But anything else? Any last minute questions? What is typically contained? Oh, this is a good question. What is typically contained in a portfolio? So portfolios are used by professionals, a lot of professionals, I say, in the design space. So what they are doing is showing what they can do, right? If you're saying, I want to be a web developer, or I want to develop graphics, or I want to develop products, my portfolio is showing you the stuff that I have created. It's a gallery, I won't say gallery, it's a repository of the things that I've done, the projects that I've worked on, whether it's on other jobs or whether it's through, I did a certification, or I did a course, or I did some skilling. These are the things that I've done here. Here's my portfolio, and see, this is what I can offer and what I can bring to you. That's all it is. It's just a collection of your work. And so that's why I say portfolio is not needed for every profession. I don't have a portfolio because I don't do things that require a portfolio, but like I said, more the design folks have portfolios. Is it important to know first if you want to be? Yes. Yes. I'll say it's not as, because front end and back end, they cross paths. They cross a lot of paths. I will say that yes, it's important because front end, sometimes they do a lot of like they do visuals, right? They do, and they do the presentation, how a website or how it looks to you on the front side, right? That's what front end is, and back end is basically around the functionality. How does it work? How does it navigate? How do you use this? So you definitely want to know which one you want to do. The coding languages, they actually may be the same, right? Maybe with the exception of front end, people know like HTML, CSS, Bootstrap, whereas the back end, it may be like C Sharp and Angular and the blah, blah, blah. So I do think it's important for you to know, do you want to be a front person or do you want to be a back person? Save yourself some time, but there are developers who are they're both front end and back end. They can do both. So if you ever feel like, hey, I'm torn, I like both of them, you can do both. Very transferable. Yeah, there you go, full stack. What is your Instagram page name? So I think I'm still sharing my screen. It's also Teddy too. Both on TikTok and Instagram. Awesome resources here, Mary. Thank you. Any other questions? All right, folks, I will not hold you any longer. You are free to find me. We're holding her up for, no, not holding you from dinner. I am happy to be here, but I don't want to hold you all up. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to contact me. I'm happy to be of assistance to you all. Thank you all so much, and have a great evening.